I'd like to call to order the Thursday, August 3rd, 2023 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Matt, can I get a roll call, please?
Certainly. Brad Jefferson.
Here.
Rusty Ingram. He's excused. Raymond Layton.
Here.
Margie Dunn.
Here.
Kelly Kaiser.
Here.
Sonny Aluzo.
Here.
Kyle Deering.
Here.
And Marshall Ballard.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, so before we move on to the approval of the minutes, I just wanted to give Kelly a second to introduce herself to the other members of the board.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Kaiser. Born here in New Bern. My husband Tom and I, we're both active real estate agents. I'm a past employee of Weyerhäeuser Company, worked in the development division for about 18 years. So I've been in this room, but in another capacity, so I'm looking very much forward to getting educated from the other side. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right, to the approval of the minutes, what is the pleasure of the board?
We need a correction. August 6 minutes. I am missing. I am not either present or absent. I am out there altogether.
August 6, 2020.
Mm-hmm. So I can't say that I was present, but if I wasn't present, I was absent.
But you were around.
But I was on the board.
We can make that correction. We'll figure that out. Thank you.
Took a few.
So with that correction, you could do a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with one correction for August.
I'll second that.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
Who was it that made the motion?
Margie.
All right, item number 3, new business. A, West New Bern Parcel A General Plan. Matt, for your presentation.
Okay, so the applicant is WEYERHAEUSER Real Estate Development Company. Project name is West New Bern Parcel A. The location is MAHEW Drive in the West New Bern community. And the existing zoning is the C3 Commercial District. The size of the subject parcel is 0.88 plus or minus acres. The project is one lot, 0.35 acres plus or minus dedicated right-of-way. And it is serviced by City of New Bern Utilities. So here's an aerial view of the current lot lines, and where the arrows point, there is a wooded area there, somewhat square area. We'll see the parcel map in a second. So we're looking at that particular area. The square area to the south of that, of the arrows, is a City of New Bern well site, and then the larger rectangle to the left is separately privately owned property. So here we see on the upper left, the plot plan suggested to subdivide a somewhat rectangular piece of land in that corner between the two lots, and then also extend the public right-of-way along the frontage of that new lot. And so it's the extension of the right-of-way that turns this project into a major subdivision. So all legal requirements for general subdivision plan have been satisfied. Public Works, Fire, Water Resources, and Electric departments have reviewed the plan and have no objections. Therefore, the general subdivision plan approval of West New Bern Parcel A is recommended.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Mr. Chair, the applicant is represented by Cliff Parsons of Warden Smith, and he's here and he has some information he'd like to share if the board would like to hear.
Yes, sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Cliff Parsons from Warden Smith. We've got a bit of a change up for you tonight. WEYERHAEUSER has been talking to the city about swapping some property, and it's kind of shifted what we're doing with this specific map. The maps that Matt handed out to you, the first one that has a dividing line and a parcel A and B, which it's along this way here. So that parcel B is part of the city well site. That is going to be swapped for about 7/10 of an acre on the south side of 70 that the city's going to have an elevated tank on. That they've been talking about that for a while and trying to figure out a way to do it. The party that's buying this lot, which is Curios, the next door neighbor, needs that additional, I think it's 0.35 acres or a little smaller than that, 0.23 acres, needs that for his density and access basically because he's got a current access here and he's going to get to his property through that way. And so, in talking with Scott Davis, we figured out the best way to do this was to basically pull this map from consideration this month, go through the process of swapping the properties, which will occur, hopefully get approved at the August 22nd Alderman meeting, record deeds the next day, a few days later, where we're swapping the properties, and then come back to you for the September meeting with the second plat, which shows the whole, what was parcel A and B together as parcel A.
Okay.
And so just wanted to let you know that that's going on. We do not need to take action on this. We thought it was better to keep it on the agenda though, so we could let everybody know what's going on and what the process is going to look like.
Okay.
So I will be here next month with that second map with a larger parcel.
And would be the intent next month to come for general and final
At the same
meeting as
time,
well?
yeah, so we'll go through this same two-step process here, absolutely. Absolutely.
Continue it. We'll have to continue it, and if he needs to supplement or amend his application, that's fine.
Okay, I think so it would be appropriate for the board to make a motion to continue items A and B to the September 5th Planning and Zoning Board meeting.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Director.
I'll entertain the motion.
I'll motion to continue this at the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Somebody's going to second that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we will see you September 5th.
Yeah, and same thing for the second agenda item, I guess, just continue that one as well since.
Sure, we'll make another motion to
Okay.
continue item B.
Okay, great. We'll see you guys next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion on item B.
I'll motion that one too.
We table item B till September. I'll accept that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number C, please.
All right. So here we are again. So for the last three meetings, I think we've had some discussion. We've talked about some pros and cons and different ways to accommodate how to make it a bit easier to reuse our existing buildings downtown. We explained that we were having a problem permitting new businesses downtown because they cannot typically apply the very literal parking standards that were designed for new buildings, not historic buildings in a historic downtown. Seth walked you through some research he did where most coastal historic cities have eliminated parking requirements to encourage the reuse of buildings like we have down here. And so we talked about a number of things, and we drew up a potential expanded sort of an overlay zone, which is in your packet. We could advance that to the last slide that has the parking map on it. I think that's all I need. Perfect, thank you. And so that's what's up here. Currently, the areas that are shaded in yellow are not required to demonstrate parking spaces to open a new business in that area. And one option that we looked at was expanding it. We talked about a couple of things that we were worried about protecting as well. We were worried about making sure we weren't exempting new development that doesn't have the same challenges that the existing development has, which is how we got to this iteration of this map. We also talked about where logically we should not give a parking pass, and so both versions of a potential text amendment change before you include exempting short-term rentals. That is the reference that is in there.
1506.
that's not spelled out, but that's what that is. And that says that for a partial house, you need 2 spaces for the owner and 1 off-street space per room rented, and for a whole house, you need 3 spaces. So that would remain. So we've got those, that's in both options. And then one of those options says that we would offer the ability to eliminate existing parking spaces if you went and got a special use permit from the Board of Adjustment. The other option does not include that. We talked about further challenges associated with parking downtown, and that was great conversation. I don't get the vibe from City Hall we want to talk about meters or paid parking. I also still don't believe there is any desire to tear down historic buildings to build a parking garage. So those are things that we don't need to consider in our conversation moving forward. At this point, it was mentioned when I briefed the Board of Aldermen from our last meeting that we were concerned with handicap access in downtown parking in general, and I'm actually happy to report that we have some funding, and I think we're going to start seeing some handicap spaces, is particularly where we can get them in on corners downtown. That is a project. We have a new MPO administrator, and she's running with that for us. So but I'm glad that that came up, because it came up in another conversation recently. It was also mentioned, as Mr. Ingram has mentioned several times, the concern with if this is really successful and we fill every building and people are parking everywhere, about parking passes. I included that in the memo. I will continue to bring that up as a side concern. But again, to refocus our conversation, what we're trying to do is avoid telling people when they call and due diligence, I'd like to open this downtown, and you go to the very literal parking standards in section 15 section 15, that's going to take you to a chart and require a whole bunch of spaces. So you had asked for an updated map. Seth had Alice put this together before he left. You've got here, the purple parking spaces are parking spaces that exist, but they're privately owned. It doesn't mean the public can't park in them. They're down there, but they're privately owned. And then you've got the blue lots down there that is public parking that's available to anyone down here. So that's what that's looking like. Of course, the yellow is currently exempted from the parking standards already. The question before us is, do we want to take the approach to expand it to the red area? You can see there is quite a bit of public parking down there, and our estimate of the 600 spaces that's on street and in those lots was still about accurate. So, but we do have this updated. This was just done. So kind of to modernize the map from a few years ago we were referencing at our last meeting. So we have before you 2 options to be used for discussion or modification or continuation to another meeting, or we're happy to listen to more feedback. So, and I know some of you were out chit-chatting, and that you had said you would have some conversations offline with other entities and things. So we can open this up for conversation. I'll let you lead that, Brett.
Okay. At her conclusion, I'll open it up to the board for conversation and discussion, if there is it.
I think still one of the major concerns is how much it's going to push back into the residential areas. And that's still a very valid point in my opinion.
So I would offset that concern perhaps with, we've got a fair amount of parking around the peripheral of this area that is city-owned public parking, the bare lots.
There's only 3 in those 3 blocks.
Right?
The rest of it is privately
And
owned.
so the majority of those now, if you go there on any given day, there's plenty of parking in those spots. So
Well, yeah.
I would contend, as I have in the past, that we don't have a parking problem in downtown Newbern, we have a walking problem in downtown Newbern. And so I think extending our parking, extending this exemption And if it pushes the parking or pushes the public to park farther away from the core of downtown, I don't think that's a problem, because it's probably going to push parking into the bare lots, which I think are underutilized at the moment. So I wouldn't think that we'd have a problem pushing parking into the residential areas. That seems unlikely to me. It's not, that's not somewhere you drive through and think, oh, here's a place to park. So in my opinion, I don't think that's a problem, but I also don't live down there. And so I think that may be where some of the concern from Rusty's coming from. And so, that doesn't mean it's not a valid concern. I don't see that as a problem.
This concern is I guess I need someone to explain to me why we think that if we make this yellow, there will be more people parking in the...
Off this map, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, because then the way the parking is here it will push some people into the residential because they don't have the assigned spots.
That's the the thought. I don't know that that's
A fact.
yes.
So these purple ones here are assigned spots.
They're private.
they're privately owned.
Well,
But public is to use them after hours most of the time.
And it's not on this map, but just north of that number 10 next to Hancock Street, that's your Black Bear lot. I don't recall right offhand how many spaces are in there, but I think it's probably something about the size of the Gold Bear lot.
Gold Bear is not paid, is it?
The
Part of it is.
So part of it is on the next to the railroad track. It isn't. That the railroad owns that.
right, that's
People park
actually
there.
not indicated here as parking. The Gold Bear lot is actually the parking around the farmer's market,
Correct. Yeah, outside of that.
inside the fence.
Yeah, outside of that fence, people park there, but it's owned by the railroad. Right.
Okay.
That's within the railroad.
Because it's even in the picture. You can see
Yeah, and
parcel.
people park across the street there in a field that the city owns. But what I would say to the concerns of living downtown, my mother-in-law lives down there by the library. I drive down there often. I pass the Black Bear lot almost daily when I'm going and doing things in my mother-in-law's house. And there's never anybody there. I mean, if there's 10 cars in that lot on any given day, it's full. That's a big day.
Well, there's the walking problem.
It is a walking problem, and I think Rusty has a concern. I don't share that concern. We've got a lot of parking. We don't know what's happening at the Shriners lot, what the county's going to do with that. There could be parking there. We don't know. You've got a lot of people downtown that park all day, down at Union Point park all day. We don't know what's going to happen on the other side of the circle. We can sit here and wonder for many years and get nothing done, or I think to hopefully promote some growth downtown in different areas that I know that you have heard and I have heard from other businesses that have not wanted to do downtown. I think this will help that. And we need to continue to grow downtown. I know everybody's happy with it now, but I'm born and raised here, just like we remember when you could roll a bowling ball down Middle Street and not hit a car. I mean, we know. So we can't, we can't sit on our laurels. We got to continue to move along. But
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Where does downtown start and where does it end?
For the purposes of our discussion tonight,
Inside of that map.
between the colors.
Yeah. For this discussion, it's within that red area. It's really what we're talking about. There is a concern with some members of the board that they would push parking outside of that map, but
So basically,
what we're talking about is inside of the red and the red
we're
area.
talking about Hancock
Yes, sir.
and Front Street. That's the area that you're talking about? And also Broad Street.
I was mentioning north of Broad Street where the Black Bear lot is. That's not on your map. It's, the Black Bear, just for reference, the Black Bear lot is here, which is a public lot.
Okay.
That was all that I was referencing. And I think there's around 40 spaces, more or less.
staff's brought excellent language, so I guess maybe we're not going to get past this discussion of whether we're pushing parking out or not. Maybe the better thing to talk about to give staff some guidance if we're going to continue this, which it sounds like maybe that's the case, but maybe the more important thing to talk about is the language that's before us and what do we like? Which option do we like? I happen to be in favor of the special use permit. That gives most flexibility to the city, in my opinion. And it's not a prohibition is just generally not a good thing. It just takes away flexibility. So that's my opinion.
And Mr. Chairman, this would have been helpful. Just want to bring to everyone's attention that if you are inclined to allow a reduction in parking using a special use permit, there is a presumption that a reduction will be permissible.
Right.
So that's kind of implicit in the language.
Yeah.
And if that's something that you're comfortable with, then I just want to make sure that that's at the front of everyone's mind. So you can conceive of a scenario wherein someone wants to reduce their parking from a number to 0, and they apply for a special use permit. There is a presumption that that permit should be granted.
But that doesn't mean it's so.
It
Well,
does not mean that it's so, and that
But if the
presumption will be
process is there,
overcome.
right, if the process is there, there's always the possibility of that happening.
Well, I personally like that myself, because the city has some options that they can use. So that's my 2 cents. I like that very much better.
Well, I don't think, based on our discussions the last couple of months, I don't think any of us are in favor of eliminating parking downtown. However, I think that process being in place rather than a prohibition makes more sense to me from a planning point of view.
I concur with that.
What do you want to do? Should we?
Well, and so- I don't think I can make, I don't know that I can make a motion, but I would end the discussion. I would perhaps recommend that, and the board can do as it wishes, to bring that back for a discussion and a vote at the next meeting.
That's entirely appropriate.
But the board can do as it wishes.
And I would say, Mr. Chair, that this item was on for discussion purposes. So if you would like to give direction to staff to bring back the ordinance language containing the special use permit and this map, if you're comfortable with this general concept, you can direct staff to bring those 2 items back to your September meeting. You can have a more robust discussion and take any action if you are so inclined to do so.
How does everybody feel about that?
I'm good with that.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this discussion to the September meeting and direct staff to provide the ordinance language for further review and discussion at our September meeting.
Okay.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Maggie second. Any more discussion on that? All those, hearing none, all those for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And with that, we'll go to item number 4, staff updates.
All right, thank you. You'll notice Matt and I are here tonight running this meeting. Seth's last day was yesterday, so I'm not sure how much he told you all. Seth's family has been going through some personal issues, and they've just decided he was better off working much closer to home. He lives near Little Washington, so he was driving here quite a bit. And so we had him a goodbye party yesterday. This was his last parting gift to us. So his job description had become a little antiquated. It's been repackaged. We have some really great applications for it in already. So that person will continue to really be the liaison to this board. But we just ask for a little bit of grace for the next few months as we cycle out and in and modernize a little bit more. I think that's all I've got tonight.
Okay. All right.
Matt, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Other than I'm glad to be here
And you'll be our guy for the next,
Until the liberation run.
So, yeah, Matt is serving, he's helping out, picking up the slack with the zoning permits and all things that ran through Seth, so, you know, we finally just got him about back to normal.
It's like deja vu all over again.
So, hopefully it won't be years and four jobs for him this time. We're very appreciative he got us through this.
Johnny on the spot.
all right.
So please be patient if there's some delay in some responses to anything. you
No,
might ask.
that's unacceptable.
Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Item number 5, does any board members have any comments?
Just welcome, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. We're good. All right, we're just going to move on to item number 6. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned.